This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Free agency can be crazy. Free agency can be hectic. Free agency could be you scrolling through your timeline for hours and hours on end. And given that we're always wondering when's the big fish going to get reeled in, or if the Browns are going to go after another big name, or what big name's going to become available that we can fantasize about the Cleveland Browns getting, we kind of forget to talk about some of the deals that are made that aren't the biggest deals in the world, aren't the biggest names in the world, but those signings do mean something for what this team is going to be there, not nothing. And that's what this video is going to be about today. This is going to be about some of the signings that you've missed throughout Browns free agency and the news that you've missed while we've been focusing on the bigger, splashier stuff. So let's talk about Nyheim Hines, a running back that the Cleveland Browns have signed. Now, I don't think this is their big solution for backup running back. Nyheim Hines is routinely a third and fourth running back on a roster and somebody who could return punts and kicks. With Jakeem Grant coming back off of his second season-ending injuries in as many years back-to-back, I doubt that the plan is to stick with him as the kick returner going forward and that they're going to go with somebody like Nyheim Hines. They could stick with James Prochet, but with the Jerry Jeudy trade, you're going to imagine that that wide receiver room is starting to get pretty crowded, especially if you think the Browns might draft a wide receiver. They only keep 6 or 7. You have to imagine that they're going to keep Amari Cooper. They're going to keep Jerry Jeudy. They're going to keep Elijah Moore. They're going to keep David Bell. They're going to keep Cedric Tillman. And they're probably going to keep maybe Marquise Goodwin, right? And if they draft the wide receiver, that's the 7th spot. You're already jam-packed. There's already a log jam in all the receivers you can keep. So that would push somebody like James Prochet, who was the returner for a section of last year, kind of to the side. He's going to be on the camp roster. I think Nyheim Hines and James Prochet are going to battle it out, but the edge goes to Nyheim because they're kind of signing him for this role. And I think that does make sense. He can be your third or fourth running back. He can be a kick and punt returner, or maybe he just returns punts or kicks, or maybe he returns kicks and you keep James Prochet to return punts. And he can also do end arounds, which is also something that the Browns want to do. So Nyheim Hines, that's kind of what the signing is for. I saw some people react as if the Browns are making him the backup running back. I highly doubt that's what they're going for. Hakeem Adeniji, if you're familiar with his name, it's probably because you're an AFC North Talk fan. You've heard New Stripe City talk about Hakeem Adeniji. He was a 6th-round pick in 2020 for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's somebody who I think the Browns signed to be insurance at the tackle position, just an extra body that they can have there that they know, hey, we can go and put this guy at left tackle, right tackle, wherever we need him, just in case you don't get a tackle you like in the draft, right? I think we all have talked about the fact that the Browns are going to be looking at the offensive line heavily in this draft, given that that's where this draft is pretty deep at, and deep offensive line drafts come few and far between. So if you're the Browns and you want to kind of reload a little bit because you know Jed Wills' contract is going to be done after this year, Jack Conklin could be gone after this year, and all you really have is DeJuan Jones. You want to get some young tackle depth, and you're going to look in the draft for that. But just in case you are unlucky, you can't get that tackle depth, you can have an Hakeem Adeniji here just in case, so you know that you got backup tackle squared up. And I think he's going to be a depth piece there. I think that's what Hakeem Adeniji is there for. Other news that broke: Jameis Winston's real money, right? The deal was up to $8.4 or $8.7 million. I think a lot of people initially read that as the Browns paid $8 million for a backup quarterback. The real money in that deal is $4 million. And if he has to play a bunch of games this year, it will jump to 8, but that's 100% fine, right? That's a standard backup quarterback deal. I know some people are still split on this Jameis Winston signing. I just don't understand why a backup quarterback should be this polarizing. The hope is that he never plays. Right, so even if Joe Flacco were the guy that they brought in, the hope is that Joe Flacco never plays. So why get up in arms about it, right? You don't, unless you really want the backup to play for whatever reason. But like, can we just admit that the Browns' best chance to win a Super Bowl, whether you like it or not, whether you like him or not, and I'm not saying it's not justified if you don't like him, but we're talking about football. We're talking about what the Browns need to do on the football field. We cannot pretend as if Joe Flacco or Jameis Winston is going to be a better option than Deshaun Watson. We saw it last year. The Browns' most impressive win on the road in Baltimore on the back of a strong Deshaun Watson performance. We saw what the point differential was. With Joe Flacco in the regular season, it was plus 20. He did a good job. That was better than any other backup quarterback that they had. With Deshaun Watson, it was plus 63. On par with Kansas City, who won the Super Bowl. The Browns' best shot to win the Super Bowl is if Deshaun Watson stays healthy. So all this arguing about the backup quarterback, I don't get it. Because your backup quarterback's not going to take you to the Super Bowl. At best, you want a backup quarterback to step in for 2-3 games. And I think if Deshaun has to miss a game, if Deshaun has to miss 2 games, Jameis makes a ton of sense. You don't have to change around the offense. You don't have to change how the routes are structured for the wide receivers in order for Jameis Winston to work. This makes sense. $4 million for other, 4.5 or 4.7 in incentives. Sounds like a good deal for Jameis. Sounds like a good deal for the Browns. Makes sense across the board. I don't, like, all you want the backup quarterback situation to be at the end of the day is make sense. You don't want your backup quarterback, well, you don't need your backup quarterback to be a hero. And Joe Flacco played well. He also turned the ball over a ton. The big complaint about Jameis Winston is that he can play well. He can lead the league in passing yards, but he will lead the league in interceptions. It's the same version of that player, except for that player fits where the offense is going forward. I know this has nothing to do with football. This has everything to do with how people feel about certain things and how Joe Flacco makes them feel. I get it, but if we're just talking football, man, don't act like the Jameis Winston signing doesn't make a ton of sense for the Cleveland Browns. It does. And it has the same upside, same downside. Also, again, if you want to win a Super Bowl, Deshaun Watson not only has to stay healthy, has to play well. That's your hopes, right? So that aside, another thing that's popped up is that Mike Williams and Hunter Renfrow officially got released. We talked about those guys being cap casualties, right? Before the offseason started. Now it's official. They're cap casualties. And they were people that I thought would make sense for the Cleveland Browns to go after before they traded for Jerry Jeudy. I really don't think this makes sense for them after the Jerry Jeudy trade. They don't really have a ton of room in that wide receiving room. It just doesn't make sense. They have 5 guys that they know they're not going to cut anytime soon. And then Marquise Goodwin is there. They might want to keep James Prochet around the punt return. I mean, we're already talking about 7 guys. They might want to draft somebody. It's 8. There's just no room for Hunter Renfrow and Mike Williams from a Browns perspective. And if you're Hunter Renfrow or if you're Mike Williams, why would you sign up when you're a free agent to somewhere where you would be a 3rd or 4th option? It doesn't make much sense to me. And if you're the Browns, why would you spend more money to make somebody that you have invested resources in either Elijah Moore or Jerry Jeudy? Why would you spend more money to relegate them to a 4 option? It doesn't make sense. So I don't think that they're going to sign a wide receiver. I know that people are still acting as if there can be a rumor or that could be true. I I don't really care about what I hear when it comes from rumors. Rumors are have been notoriously unreliable, especially in this market. I don't care about the rumors. I care about reading the tea leaves and figuring out what actually makes sense for the Browns to do. And I think that gives you a clear picture of what they're after, right? We talked about it on this channel that Jameis should be somebody that they look for as a backup. Now he's there. There wasn't a ton of rumors to support that. But if you just read the tea leaves, you see the direction that the Browns are going, it's not hard to come up to that conclusion. That's what I like to do here. I like to try to, investigate the situation a little. And at wide receiver, it just doesn't make sense for the Browns to go after a wide receiver right now. It really doesn't make sense for a wide receiver to pursue the Cleveland Browns as a suitor. You don't even have leverage to get the money that you want. It doesn't make sense. I don't see any agent pushing their free agent wide receiver to Cleveland unless Cleveland is the only one knocking. And I don't see Cleveland pushing for another wide receiver. It just universally does not make sense for either side. They're going to stick with Jerry Jeudy. You have to think the Browns feel like they have an 1,000-yard receiver potentially in Jerry Jeudy. They think that Elijah Moore has 1,000-yard potential in Amari Cooper, and you have David Njoku. I think they feel pretty set. That being said, let's talk. Oh, yeah, this is something else that I want to get to, too. There is this sentiment out here that the Browns are being passive this offseason period. And while you could make the argument that they are being passive, I do think the argument itself is kind of ridiculous given what the Browns have been doing the last few years. Look, the Browns have been outspending the NFL for the last few years. The Browns have one of the best rosters in football. The Browns are not at a point to where they need to add these big names in order to get their roster where they want it to be. This roster sustained 26% of his salary cap on injured reserve and won 11 games last year. Just that 26% coming back to health is a bigger boost to this team's chances for a Super Bowl than any free agent signing they could have had. Because they're getting back what they hope to be a Pro Bowl quarterback. They're getting back one of the best running backs in the NFL. Let me ask you, if the Browns signed a Pro Bowl quarterback and they signed the best running back in football, would you not be excited about the Browns' prospects for next season? But because those players were already on the Browns, you don't get excited about it, right? And that makes sense. New stuff is shiny and it's fun and it's more exciting. But don't let that make you lose the big picture, which is the Browns have all that shit. Right, we're talking about maybe adding DJ Reader so we can have a legitimately all Pro Bowl defensive line. That's where the roster is. By the way, we have 3 Pro Bowl corners. By the way, we have a really good safety in Juan. We have a really, really good safety in Grant Delpit. We have one of the best young linebackers in the NFL in JOK. You flip over to the offensive side of the ball, and it's even more impressive, right? Like, well, not even more, but it's still impressive, right? You got all pros all over the place on the offensive line. You got David Njoku, who's one of the best tight ends in the NFL. You have Amari Cooper. You have somebody with a lot of potential in Elijah Moore, and you have somebody who, while he has not lived up to being a first pick in top 15 pick in the draft, he still has almost reached 1,000 yards as a wide receiver as your number 2 option. And then you got Nick Chubb coming back from injury. I said this before free agency started. The Browns could not sign another soul and they would be one of the best rosters in football. They've brought back some guys. They added Jerry Jeudy. They're probably going to add some other guys. You kind of just got to be patient with this, right? I think the Browns are going to be in the market to kind of wait, right? They're going to wait some of this out, right? The DJ Reader market, they're going to wait that one out. The Arik Armstead market, they're going to wait that one out, right? There's a lot of markets that they're going to wait out because they're going to want to get their price on it. They're not trying to overpay because they're trying to maintain being able to outspend the league. The Browns have been aggressive. They're going to continue to be aggressive. But they're not going to be stupid. And right now, I don't think people are asking the Browns to be, I don't think people are meaning this, but I think sometimes it's more exciting for your team to be stupid than to be cautiously aggressive like the Browns. And we just got to remember that while there's that part of us, right? I don't know which, is it the id or the E? Yeah, I think it's the id that wants us to go and get the shiny new thing and make us feel good for like the next 15 minutes. It's important to remember that you want the Browns to do the smart thing. You want the Browns to get good deals, sign players to good contracts that are on their terms, in order for them to be able to manipulate the salary cap in a way that they've been able to do it the last couple of years. So I get it. We see other people getting shiny new things. We want shiny new things, but it's always important to remember that the Browns do this for a reason. AB's one of the best in the NFL. If a deal makes sense for him, he's going to wait until it's right where he wants it. Not before, not after, and he's not going to compromise the team's flexibility for the next few years, especially when you have a Deshaun Watson contract that you're not 100% sure about, just to feel good for the next 15 minutes. The Browns also hired a new run game coordinator. Well, not new. This is a new position for them. They hired a run game coordinator, which is interesting. I wonder how this lines up with what the offensive line coach does, because historically the Browns have let their offensive line coach manage the run game. Their new run game coordinator is from the University of UConn, right? So Connecticut. He's the offensive coordinator. He has head coach experience, I believe, at the University of Maine, which is FCS, major FCS. I believe that's in the CAA. It's not the Colonial anymore, right? I think it's the Coastal Athletic Conference or whatever they went to. But they're hiring Nick Charlton. He's an offensive coordinator. He's kind of known for new stuff, right? He's been doing some newer stuff, a lot of motion, a lot of stuff. Look, this is just another step in the Browns trying to modernize their offense. And while we say this, I want to make one thing clear. It's easy to see the Browns make these changes and think, oh, they're trying to move the offense around Deshaun Watson. I think that is a consequence of what they're doing, but I don't think that's what's motivating what the Browns are doing with their coaching staff. I think they're just trying to get more modern. Deshaun Watson fits the modern mode of quarterback. So yes, he will benefit from this because it is going to fit him better. And I think in some ways they're going to customize it to him, right? They know that he likes to kind of see things and react to it, and they'll kind of switch up different route concepts and different read progression. It's just stuff for him to footwork and all that to make sure that he's comfortable. But they're trying to modernize the offense because, hey, if Deshaun Watson doesn't work out, you're still going to have to find a new quarterback. You can't, like Joe Flacco's, they don't make those anymore, right? That was 2009, 2010. You can't keep relying on old quarterbacks to be able to make this thing work. You got to be able to rely on some of that new school to make this work. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to modernize the offense so that if they do have to get a quarterback, they can plug them in a lot easier, right? They have concepts from college they can go to. The fact that they could not plug in stuff to make Deshaun Watson comfortable with ease kind of tells you the story. And now they're bringing in guys from the college ranks. They're bringing in fresher, newer perspectives. I think this is a good thing all around. But that's the news for the Cleveland Browns so far today. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.